And he started walking towards me, or towards us as a group. And I remember him saying, Tom's in a bad way, and this is serious shit. And it was the realization that we are in the middle of nowhere on a dirt road, middle of nowhere, like hyenas everywhere, whatever. This is serious shit. And he was having breathing problems because we now know that he'd broken ribs, punctured lungs, he'd broken his leg, he'd broken his thumb, he was in a bad, bad way. And I can remember Rowan then walking back because he was kind of taking charge from a medical perspective because of his training and all that. And we all just dispersed. People were crying. People were kind of sat on the side of the road. It was just the heaviest moment I'd seen ever. They are the most positive guys.
Oh, they're great.
And they're positive when you first meet them, but they're 12 days and the times we've been on the ride outs and stuff, I've never seen any chink in their armour in terms of that positivity at all. And
very sound character.
They're not, you don't meet that many people, don't meet people that they seem genuine. Yeah. I mean, they could be serial killers behind closed doors, but I mean, they seem genuine.
If you're going to come to Namibia, find somewhere, if you can, to find some sand.
Yeah.
Learn how to ride on sand. Prepare yourself, same as you would for a marathon.
Yeah.
You're not going to just go to a marathon and just run.
Yeah.
Welcome to episode 3 of Appetite for Combustion. I'm Jamie, this is Toby, and we're joined by none other than Joe Fleming.
That's
from
right.
Bonafide Moto Co.
Welcome, Joe.
Really,
thanks, guys.
Really cool to have you on.
Yeah.
And thanks a lot for coming.
Joe's official height is 8'3".
Yeah,
I think, is that right, Joe?
It depends. In the winter months, maybe a little bit less.
Do you get taller or shorter in the winter months?
I think after I broke my neck, I'm probably a bit shorter now. So a little bit less.
I forgot about that bit, so we're going to have to get into that as well.
Well, he's not joking. He's broken his neck.
No, I've not spoken to you about breaking your neck
either,
is... Right, we'll have to get into it. Right, okay. So how long have you been in Wales, Joe?
I got here on the 16th, 17th, so 5-6 days. I was in London for a few days.
First time?
Wales. First time.
So you've been to nearly every country in the world. Where does Wales rate?
I love it.
Yeah.
So I've been in South Africa now for 10 years, and what we don't have is like luscious green areas, lots of rain and like damp like this. So it's a nice change. Like it's really lovely.
It's a bit too wet if you ask me, but we'll see.
It's a lot of mud. It's a lot of mud.
We're used to it now, but yeah, is what it is. So so you boys actually you met recently out in obviously Namibia.
Yeah.
Joe put on a brilliant adventure, which sadly I wasn't on, but looked amazing.
Invited.
I was invited. I was invited.
I sent it in the post.
It's not the last you've seen of me, Joe. So you got on obviously like a house on fire.
Yeah.
The boys had obviously an incredible time, journey.
Yeah.
So you've been doing that for a good while now, Joe.
Yeah, I've had Bonafide Moto Co now for, I think the business we've had for like 8 years.
8 years.
And in the beginning it was all about motorcycles. So it was the coffee culture, similar to like Baffle House, where you start in the city meeting people, and that was when I was getting to know South Africa, and then those little local rides around town led to a little bit further and a little bit further, and then eventually you find out that in South Africa there's 700,000 kilometers of dirt roads.
Right.
And it's like, I want to explore all of it.
700,000?
700,000 kilometers of dirt roads in South Africa.
Yeah.
And so that's where, eventually after trying to figure out where I'm going to put the business, that's the focus. It's off-road. It's Southern Africa, not just South Africa, but it's off-road exploration.
So do you buy the bikes? Your company buy the bikes, or do you get the bikes from the main dealer, like the Triumph, for example, or are they your bikes that you sort of hire to the boys?
So right now we rent from a company. We rent from two companies. So we rent Triumphs. That's my preference.
Yes.
It's my preference because I feel that, so like these guys in Namibia had the Tiger 900.
Yeah.
It's a powerful, agile, light-ish weight, big adventure bike.
Yeah.
Versus sometimes on our trips we get the GS 1250, and that thing's a dog.
It's a bit too cumbersome.
It's
that's the politest description I've ever heard.
I try to be
say.
polite when I talk about it.
Well, people rave about the GSs, though, don't they?
They love it.
Some parts of the world, but it's not really for sand, is it? Or
not. So I learned that a GS is not good in sand. Well, some people say it's not good at all in sand for like beginners. So like we just had a group of riders in Botswana, and some of them were first-time sand riders.
Right.
And I didn't know how bad GSs were in sand for new people.
Right.
And what to navigate sand well on a GS, you have to have confidence and experience.
Yeah.
And you stand up and you throttle and you go. If you're trying to go slow and sand and just kind of waddle and take your time, you struggle.
Yeah.
The Triumph though, I had no expectation on the Triumph Tiger, and I remember pulling out of the I was saying to Tom yesterday, I remember pulling out of that first campsite in Windhoek and thinking, because I'm used to motocross bikes, so I was thinking, wow, this bike is big. I don't think I could ride this off road. I was like, I was stressing when we went to that first coffee shop.
Yep.
I was stressing because I thought, I don't think I can ride this competently on off-road because it just felt big. But by the end of the trip, it was an epic bike. Resilient. I didn't have one issue with mine. The clutch bite didn't move. Like, we put it through its paces, didn't we? I found the rev limiter maybe twice, maybe a few times, I don't know.
Yeah.
Not as much as Rowan, but yeah, epic bike. We'll come on to that side of things in a second.
Oh, that's great.
But that's a strange South African accent you've got, Joe.
Yes.
Where's that? So
funny.
Talk about.
So I've been in South Africa now for 10 years. It was actually November 6th was my 10 years in South Africa.
Wow. Right.
So I originally moved from the States, and so now when people hear my accent or they hear me talk, I can see they're trying to figure out where I'm from, and they're like, is this guy like Canadian? They're like, I hear this American accent, but I hear this yaw. It's South African, but they get so confused.
Yeah.
But after living there for 10 years now, that's just my American accent is kind of blended with the South African culture and locals and stuff. So it kind of confuses people. But what's nice for me is like whenever I travel, I always say like I identify as South African.
Really?
My passport may say I'm American, but I identify as a South African, and that's home.
Yeah.
Are they to stay as well, Joe? Are you gonna?
I'd love to.
Yeah.
The South African government doesn't make it easy for foreigners to maintain like a residency.
Right. Okay.
So the process now for me to get like a permanent residency, it takes like another 4 years.
Yeah.
So it's complicated, but that's my goal. Like for me to stay in South Africa would be my goal. I don't want to go back to America. I would go to any other country. Yeah, there's like Mozambique. I found out I could go there and start my business in Mozambique without the help of locals. So that's kind of like my backup plan. If South Africa doesn't work out, then I would move to Mozambique. And
what's the ride in like in Mozambique? I don't even know where Mozambique
is. Quite sandy.
It's what?
Quite sandy.
You'll love it.
Dave will love it.
Yeah.
Dave,
Yeah.
So do you mind us asking then what made you leave America then and go to South Africa?
It was a girl.
It was
a girl.
Oh, it's always
love.
a girl. That's why I'm in Swansea.
Yeah.
It's always a girl.
Yeah.
It's always a girl.
It was so I was living in San Diego at the time, and met this girl on Instagram. She was South African, and after a couple I think after like 3 months of messaging her, I went to South Africa to go visit, to meet her, and I stayed in South Africa about 3 weeks getting to know her, and fell in love with her during that time, and was like, okay, I get it.
Nice.
Went back to work in the States, was miserable. And then within 2 months later, I packed up everything and moved to South Africa. And I moved there with 3 suitcases.
Pastures
Really?
new.
3 suitcases, had 2 yard sales. And like just kind of, I was an only child. I didn't have anything really holding me back.
Yeah.
And I just felt like this is what I need to do.
Yeah.
And I did it.
Yeah. Good. So you mentioned working. I have no idea what you would be before that, because we'll come on to your day job now, and it is like I am envious of your day job because it's epic, and I've been part of your day job. Yeah. But what did you do before being a legend and being the
before I found myself?
The nickname is the General. So
I've seen that.
Yeah, that's what the General. But what were you before that, mate?
So in college, my degree was public relations. So I had a minor in business administration, and then it was public relations.
Right.
And because of my experience in the military, after college, I was able to get a job working for a defense contractor. And I did like a really shitty job for about a year or two. But that got me in the door to the company. And that's what I was willing to do. Like, okay, let me pay my dues, get in, and then eventually try to do public relations for the company. And that's exactly what happened. So after about 2 years, I did public relations for a defense contractor. My client was the U.S. Navy, and I worked on their unmanned aircraft division. So unmanned helicopters, unmanned aircraft, that was sort of my my customer. Yeah. And I had to write, there were some really great perks of the job. I got to go to military bases and fly and go see some like amazing equipment. But like the downside was that I had to write press releases. Yeah. I worked for a defense company, which makes all their money off of war. Yeah. And, at some point it became like an ethical, the ethics of that business and that industry just wasn't sitting with me. Yeah. And so I knew my time was going to be up. Yeah. But I didn't know like when that was going to be. But, to being in the military, I took what I needed from it. Same with the defense company. Took what I needed from it, and then was able to move on.
So you mentioned the military. This is like a job interview now. Yeah. You mentioned the military as well. Yep. I did. I don't think I knew you were in the military. What?
Most people don't.
There may have been a campfire story.
It could have been. It could have been like a. Well, there's a lot of stories involved, so I might have left that one out.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, you may have mentioned it, but yeah, how long were you in the military for?
So I was in college. Started college in 2001, and that was the year of 9/11. So it was like a couple weeks after I started college was when 9/11 happened, and I think that next year I started to get this feeling like I wanted discipline. I wanted some structure. Like my father didn't really give me discipline or structure, and I was feeling like I needed that. And so I looked into the military, and I was willing to just go to the military. I didn't know that they would pay you, might
just turn it on,
pay for you to go to school and stuff. So I ended up signing up for the Army National Guard, and after my sophomore year in college, like my summer, I went to do basic training and infantry training. And the good and bad of that was that I went back to school for like 3 days. But because I'd done my basic and infantry training, that made me deployable. Right. And this was now 2003 at the height of the U.S. war. Yeah. And I got a phone call. I think it was like my second day on campus. I got a call from this guy. He's like, hey, this is your platoon sergeant. You need to be here next Saturday. You're going to be gone for a year. And like, I mean, not bullshitting you. That's exactly what he said. And I was like, wow, you got to be kidding me. So it was tough. It was a tough pill to swallow. Like I was a very social person, and to know I was going to leave for a long time was quite a lot. But I trained up in the States for 7 months. And then I was in Iraq for 10 months. Really? And we were part of like a a Bradley unit. So Bradley's like a tank.
Right.
It's called a armored personnel carrier. So my job was to get in the back of the tank. We would go patrol the town and walk around and,
have some presence.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And, for me, I was young. I wanted so much more out of my job.
Yeah.
So I was taught to fight.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to do. Like I really wanted to go do some damage. And there was a part of me that I can say this now because it was the truth that like these people that I was going to fight took me away from home and I wanted to kill them.
Was the underlying?
Yeah, that was me being a kid.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool, you took me from home, I'm gonna go kill you.
Yeah.
But that was sort of like the brainwashing that you get in boot camp. And luckily I had a guy he was my team leader. His name was Sergeant Morris, Neil. And he eventually said to me, hey man, like this is all bullshit.
Really?
This is all a dream, And
How old were you at this point?
I was 20 at that time. I turned 21 in Iraq.
So like a sponge then.
Yes.
So
yeah.
So
just looking for, still trying to find my way in the world.
Yeah.
And he really helped me to see like the military is not the way. And, I was grateful that I sleep very well at night.
Yeah.
Not worrying about things that I did in Iraq and, our town was quiet.
Yeah.
And, I didn't have to go and do some of the things that I wanted to initially do.
Yeah. Brilliant.
I had some good times there and some really action moments, but I'm grateful that I was in a quieter place and I don't have that severe trauma that some people have. Unfortunately, it's a hard thing to go through.
It would have been heavy. And I know spending some time with you, you're quite a deep person as well. So that stuff would have played on your mind, I suspect, as well.
Yeah, I think so.
More than most.
Yes. So obviously myself and Tobes, we like to have a ride on the bikes to sort of switch off from our work and stuff. But because obviously now that is your work, what do you actually do to take your mind off business and off work and to relax and stuff? What do you actually do out there?
Meditate.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Right.
Meditate for me is it's huge because I can get very like overwhelmed and like I'm ADHD, so I can get hyper focused with the business and everything. And I think there's a beauty for us that have ADHD because we can get super passionate about things. We can really focus in on things and, owning my own business, the sky's the limit in terms of what I want to do. But there's a threshold and it gets to a certain point when it's just too much. And I find meditation helps to just kind of center me, calm me down. And then just going outside, I've not been sleeping well the past 3-4 weeks. I'm up at like 2:30 in the morning working and it's really bad. But what I've been doing here now is getting up in the morning, going for a walk. Like a walk, I think this morning it was like 6Ks. And 2 days ago, I walked out of Rowan's house and like the sun was coming up. And like right now the leaves are changing. Yeah. And it's beautiful. Just so amazing. And I'm like walking down this road and I'm like, holy shit, this is fucking incredible. And like I cried.
Yeah,
I had a proper cry walking down the road.
That's
I
class,
even
mate.
filmed myself and I was like,
class.
Dude, I'm so proud of you for coming here because I think if I wouldn't have booked this flight and come to the UK, I wouldn't have experienced that feeling.
Yeah. Well, mate, you're welcome back anytime now. Anyway, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure meeting you. So we hope to see you back on British soil.
I can't wait.
Next year or whenever the time comes. But
are you treating it like a holiday then, Joe? Does it feel like a holiday then, or does it just feel like?
Sounds like you needed a break, mate. To be fair, sounded like you needed a break.
I did, and I had a call with Werner. At the airport. Now I was on the tube. Do you say the tube? From London?
Subway? Train. The train.
I just got in from the airport. I was on the subway. Werner sent that funny photo that he had photoshopped.
Yeah.
It was like a photo of me holding a cigar. This photo's like
In Paris, wasn't it?
yeah, 9 years old, and he had photoshopped me, and I started bursting out laughing on the train.
We'll edit that in, Tobes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll put
yeah,
that in. Yeah.
Put it here. Right? Is that
Well,
what it is?
my editing skills are crap, so it could end up anywhere.
I wanna
but
see
yeah,
this.
it'll be here somewhere.
So I immediately pick up the phone and I phoned Werner. I was like, dude, thank you so much for that. Like that made me LOL, here on the train. And he's like, what's your plan for while you're here? I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I've got meetings in London and I'm going to probably just spend most of the week working. And he's like, dude, don't do it.
Yeah.
He's like, you've been busting your ass for months and like, don't forget to like, just make the most of your time here. And he said that to me and I was like, shit, man, you're right.
Yeah.
Like,
Because we'll touch on a few of them, but I know you've had a few others as well. There's been some high stress situations in the last 4 months of your life.
yeah.
There's been some proper
you
high
need some
stress.
downtime, mate. Is
Yeah,
the only way forward then.
And I think I've done a good job of it. Like I've spent a few days at Baffle, like working and getting things done, and it's felt like within my flow.
Yeah.
And then there's been a few days where it's just like, okay, let me just go explore and let me kind of settle in and just rest, and it's been great.
Yeah.
Some-
Who do
something
you
that's
prefer? Who do you prefer? Sorry, Tibbs. Who do you prefer, Sam or Salts? Who do you think's a better bloke?
Both.
No, it's one or the other. Unfortunately.
No, I'm not going to answer that.
They're
It's
crackers.
just-
they're a pair of crackers, both of them.
God, they're like brothers.
Yeah, they're class.
Yeah,
they
they're
come,
like
they come as
brothers.
one. The two peas in a pod, we
They
say.
really are. They're it's an amazing bond that they have, and to watch how they feed off each other.
Yeah.
Like when we were on stage at the motorcycle show last weekend.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's just amazing. I feel like it's almost like the moment Salts may get like not know what to say. He's like, okay, cool. He looks to Sam. Or he's like, I'll reference Sam or something. So he knows, man.
So
It's
Sam
really
and
great.
Salts are the founders of Baffle Culture and the founders of Baffle House.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's others involved.
They'll
but
be on episode 4 or 5.
Yeah, they were on episode 2, but our audio messed up. But they are the most positive guys.
Oh, they're great.
And they're positive when you first meet them, but they're 12 days and the times we've been on the ride outs and stuff, I've never seen any chink in their armor in terms of that positivity at all. And
Very sound character.
they're not, you don't meet that many people, don't meet people that they seem genuine.
Yeah.
I mean, they could be serial killers behind closed doors, but I mean, they
Always
seem genuine.
possibility.
It is, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. So let's. I think should we talk about a little bit of the NEC
Yeah, that
piece
looks really
then, because
interesting,
that is a privilege. Triumph stand,
Yeah.
2 talks.
2 talks.
Yeah.
You could call it 1.5.
Oh really?
The first one was fucking around and finding out.
I've done a lot of that. Well, we've done a lot of
Yeah.
that on you as well, haven't we?
Yeah. So, how I ended up here was, it was probably about 3 weeks ago. I was feeling like, because when the guys left Namibia, I was like, okay, I'm going to come to Baffle at some point, probably early 2024, and come give a talk and just meet your community and meet people and spread the word of, what we do in Africa. Then I started to think like, you know what, I should probably do this sooner rather than later.
Yeah, nice.
Like to really go spread the word. And it was just something that I was really feeling quite strong about. So I picked up the phone and, just kind of mentioned it to Salts and said, hey, like, I think I might try to come here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And he said, look, that might not be a bad idea because we've been invited to give a talk at the Triumph booth at the Motorcycle Live show for Triumph about our experience in Namibia.
Yeah.
And like,
No brainer, mate.
yeah,
Yeah.
it would kind of make more sense that
Yeah.
you're there to do that as well.
Yeah.
So, it felt right.
Awesome.
Yeah, I felt like it was the great decision to do it. And, so to do the talk and then do the talk at Baffle, it felt right. So then I got here and we went to the show and to be on the Triumph stand in London or in the
NEC,
UK where I've never been before. It was really cool. And we had a great time on the first talk. Like it was literally opening day of the show. Triumph was trying to figure out their audio and everything. And
Amateurs.
oh man, it was.
Was Tom there?
Tom should have been there. He would have waxed it. He would have waxed it.
Yeah.
So no, but I mean, the first talk, it was still good, but there was people in the audience who were, they're just out there looking at bikes.
Yeah.
And I remember there was like one or two people who I felt like we had their attention, and the rest were just kind of walking around.
Oh no, yeah.
So then at some point, we're just connecting with each other. I wasn't looking at the audience, which you don't really want to do. You want to be able, you want to engage with the audience, and so after that first talk, we kind of figured it out, like, okay, the second one, we're going to nail it. Yeah. And we did. Triumph had gotten the audio right and did a better intro and kind of warmed it up. So that next talk, there was more people engaging, and we just felt much better about the talk. Yeah. And I think had we have been there for, even 3-4 days, give that talk multiple times, oh man, you could really do some good stuff, because we were there to talk about this experience in Namibia. We showed content of the trip that Tom had taken. It's epic footage. And at the end of the day, we're all just normal riders who had an epic adventure. And I think that resonates with everyone there. They're like, okay, these guys aren't pros. Yeah. They're just normal guys, and I can also be a part of this adventure, And it was
so good.
I think it was well received. That's really nice.
That's awesome.
Nicely done, mate. That takes some doing to stand up in front of that. That's a big show. Yeah. That's the biggest show in the UK. So
well, luckily I had no clue.
Yeah. Did you not expect it to be that big?
I knew it was going to be like a big show. Yeah. But I didn't know.
That's class.
And I bet you get, so coming back to South Africa for a second and then back to the NEC, how far did we travel? 2,000 kilometers, 2,500 kilometers?
In Namibia.
Yeah, in Namibia.
Yeah, I think it's between 2,200 and 2,400, somewhere around there.
So in that distance, I don't think we met anyone that you didn't know. Honestly, every town. Wow. Everywhere you've got that presence where people kind of gravitate towards you, and I remember going to some random pubs and people just
Swakopmund.
We're like, I don't know how many 1,000 kilometers away from Joburg, and
they don't call him the General for nothing, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
You're friends with Joe,
yeah, Joe. And I bet the NEC, you kind of there was some inquisitive people that kind of wanted to talk Africa.
Great connect, great story.
Yeah.
So we finished the talk at the Triumph stand. We had gone over to see the Royal Enfield stand. Saltz and Sam knew the guy who runs Royal Enfield in the UK. So we're over there at the Royal Enfield stand, and this guy comes up to me. He's my height.
Really?
And he's like, hey, aren't you supposed to be at the Triumph stand? I was like, we just were, blah, blah, blah. And I forgot what he said, but I saw he worked at Moscow Moto, which is like an adventure bike brand, which I've been wanting to, get their attention for a while. And he's like, hey man, like I've been following you on Instagram for a long time. Nice. And his name's Bob on Bike. And he's like, dude, and I said, I've been wanting to come try out some of the pants that you guys have because I'm so tall, it's hard for me to find pants that fit. Yeah. So I wanted to go try on some of this kit and just see what it was like. And he's like, hey, come over to the stand. So I ended up going back over there to the stand eventually, trying on the pants and trying on all the kits. And it was great. It was a great opportunity to see that kit. And I was like, okay, cool. Like when I've got some money, now I know what I can get. And they were trying to sell me on it. I was like, hey man, like I'm from South Africa. Like I don't have money right now. And the guys, I ended up chatting to Bob and he said, look, I've been following you for a while, know about your accident with the bike and your neck injury. And just to know that I was in London and there was some other guy who knew who I was and, had made this connection. He's like, I've been wanting to come down to South Africa and host trips. Yeah. I've been looking to partner with someone to do tours and, let's chat. And what's so funny is that I've been needing help with running adventures. And I've, I kind of say I've been putting it out to the universe that I'm looking for someone. I'm not actively putting out applications or anything like that. And, he's from the Netherlands, great guy. And I'm curious to see kind of what unfolds with that.
Mate,
And it was,
brilliant.
the same with him. And then the other guy from Moscow was like, "Hey man, let's chat. Let me set you up with some stuff because I wasn't going there to ask for things.
No.
I wasn't looking for stuff.
yeah.
But he was like, I like what you do. I've seen your profile, photography. I get it.
On point.
You know?
On point. Yeah. So, and that's the power of networking and that kind of having that positive mindset. as
Right
you say.
place,
That's
right
why I
time, isn't
came
it?
here. Yep.
Yeah. But you've got to put yourself in the right place, haven't you? In
Yeah.
terms of that.
Because
And
I
that's-
can't, the biggest thing for me coming up here was that like I can sit there in South Africa and put out all kinds of shit on Instagram and push, but I don't think you find out who people really are behind a phone
That's true. That.
until you go and meet them face to face.
Yeah.
And so for me, in the adventures I do, like I didn't come up here looking to hard sell anyone.
Yeah.
I don't like, I did bring my little POS,
Yeah.
but I also like, what the fuck am I going to do with this? So I keep saying like, in my mindset of why I'm here, it's to come here and plant seeds.
Yeah.
And make connections.
Yeah.
And those seeds are going to grow and eventually it's going to come right. And people will come down to Africa. They'll hear about what we do. They'll be like, oh yeah, I know a guy named Joe. You should go down there and do an adventure with him. And
Yeah.
so it's sort of that delayed gratification
Yeah.
that is extremely hard for me to do.
Yeah.
But like, I know that it's the right thing. Like I'm putting one foot in front of the other, doing the right things, and it'll
Yeah.
work out. It always
Yeah.
does.
Mate,
You've got to put
that's
yourself
great.
out there, haven't you?
Yeah.
You've got to do it. Otherwise, and I think that's one thing, and we've chatted about this since I've got back on the phone. You can get overwhelmed with intensity in real life, day-to-day stuff, family stuff, work for me. And you forget that perspective on life and you get blinkered on intensity. And if I'm honest, that run up to Namibia, that negative kind of lens came over, and if you're negative, you don't necessarily gravitate to negativity, but you certainly don't see positivity or
Yeah,
connect with
honestly, Joe,
positivity.
I saw that from Tobes. Like since he's come back from there, I was saying to the Baffle boys as well, he is like a different person.
Yeah.
So whatever medicine you're giving them out there, just the adventure and everything, you can't recommend that enough to people. If it does that to people, and
Honestly,
everyone needs a break and an escape and just reset, don't they?
Yeah, honestly, and I was stressing about the time away from my family because that was definitely the
Yeah.
longest I've had away from my
Yeah.
family. But actually, that's a short-term pain for the long. That sounds corny, but
Huge.
long-term pain
Yeah.
because it was like a slap around my face in terms
Yeah.
of what are you doing? You're going to burn your whole life just stressing about nothing,
A laptop.
stuff that doesn't happen.
Yep.
And honestly, I'm eternally grateful to you for kind of showing me that, because it was I was lost until that point. Getting a bit deep here, but it was
mate.
definitely lost. And I think that's why we're doing this, really, because
Yeah.
I've come back and I am just saying yes to everything, and
Yeah,
literally,
yes, man.
I'm
Yeah.
going to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked
here
about
once,
it.
aren't we? We're in here once,
Yeah.
so we got to take opportunities and grab them by the
Yeah,
scruff.
and genuinely, since I've kind of lifted that negativity and put the positive lens in front, you find positivity everywhere you go, in every conversation, in every kind of location. You gravitate towards it, and it's just
He's just
just
dodge.
epic, isn't
It's
it?
just a game of dodge the negativity, isn't it?
It is,
Mm.
yeah. But you kind of almost don't even notice it now.
No.
It's kind
After a
of
while, if you
it's
surround yourself
so-
with the right people, Joe, isn't
Yeah,
it?
like I speak about you quite a lot and what that adventure in Namibia did for you specifically and for other people. And I started out doing motorcycle rides, motorcycle adventures, and it's about the motorcycles. But for me, if you look on my Instagram profile, there's not a lot of photos of motorcycles.
No.
And I think Triumph and the relationship I have with Triumph South Africa, they're probably like, man, I wish you would post more photos of his Tiger,
yeah.
But for me, the motorcycle, it's just the way we get there.
Yeah.
And what I've found is that it's more about the adventure and the personal growth
Yeah.
that you find on these trips where
Yeah.
you push yourself, you go through challenges, you connect with others, you bond with others. There's a team element, and you realize that like you wanted to go to Namibia.
Yeah.
I think you probably thought Namibia would be a great place for you to go ride a motorcycle.
Yep.
You didn't ever think it would be a life-changing trip or one that you needed in life to really break away and kind of, the saying of rewild yourself.
Yeah,
but you had to go sit by a fire in the middle of nowhere with bare feet and not shower for a night and
Sleep
really
under
just
the
get
stars.
back out there to remember what's important.
Yeah, definitely.
Not a laptop in sight, Tobes, because you are.
Exactly that.
He's on his laptop a lot with his job, so it's nice to get away from the devices of.
It's
of the modern
definitely
day.
so, because it's so insular. And I remember going to that trip, and I told Tom this last night, but I don't think I've told anyone really. But I remember going to that trip, and thinking, this is going to be a struggle. This is way out of my comfort zone. I'm not a sociable person. I'm going to really struggle. And the first night, I remember, I went to bed the first night, and I had a wobble. I was like, I've made the wrong decision. I'm feel way out of my depth. This is not for me. That was the one and only time I felt that. From that morning on, it was just like, as if I was having a cold shower every day. Kind of, this is epic. And yeah, it's to pull you out of the dark times. It's exactly what I needed. It's not for everyone, but that type of kind of reset is
everyone needs an escape. And like I say, if your family, obviously love you to bits, they want to see you enjoying yourself, and they're not going to mind if you step out the house for a week or two. You've come back a new man, mate. So nicely done. Nicely done to both of you. But Joe, got a couple of questions about. Do you do much barbecuing over there?
So in South Africa we do we call them braais.
Yes.
Yeah,
well, we got a
braais.
South African friend. I'm hoping you're going to meet him in the morning. He comes in the water with us.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, he's the type of guy that builds the wooden sort of shack out the back, open with all the cooking stuff. And that's the first time I ever heard of a braai.
Barbecue type stuff back. Yeah. Yes, that's
so it's
amazing.
Called a braai, isn't it?
Yeah. So in the States they barbecue,
right?
And then in South Africa then they braai. Yeah. And yeah, it's like, I think moving to South Africa, one of the biggest things for me is watching how they cook with fire, how they use a fire. So, we'll go out into the bush and there'll be like a big concrete space, like whether it be circle or rectangular, and you build a fire, and then they have different ways of like grills or grids where they move the coals.
Yeah, nice.
And to watch how people move the coals, work the coals, and how you can really use them, it's an art form.
Yeah.
And it's powerful. Like I've watched a lot of people do that, and I've learned how to cook with that fire, and it's really cool. It's so basic. Yeah, it's really basic.
But it's like anything in cooking, isn't it? It's like the simplest methods are the best, aren't they? But it's not overcomplicated.
That's the beauty of cooking. Don't overcomplicate it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So, can we talk a little bit about this majestic hat you have on your head? It's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
When I bumped into you yesterday, I was a bit weird. I just came up to you and I had to touch it because it looks
it felt like it was like
it looks amazing.
So I don't have great hair. I've got a great beard.
What are you trying to say? We've all got the same haircut.
Yeah. It's all this is the style.
We're in the safe zone here.
Yeah.
So I've been a hat guy for 10, 15 years. Yeah. So every time I step out of the house, I'm wearing a hat, and I've always kind of I think
it's not good for headphones, though, is it, Joe?
No.
Apparently, the transition from motorcycle helmet to hat is very smooth as well.
I mentioned this, didn't I? Honestly, I never saw Joe without his helmet or his hat on. So he'd pull over to the side of the road. Yeah. And it was as if your hat was connected to your helmet. It was like,
yeah.
What a transition.
Yeah, I've got like a strap. So on the back of the tail of the bike, I've just got two straps. So you can see in the front or the back, you can see where the straps go.
So that particular hat, how long have you had it?
I've had this hat for, I think, 8 months, 10 months, but I just started wearing it in like June.
10,000 kilometers on it yet?
You weren't born with it then? I just assumed you came
out. It feels like I would have been born with it. Yeah. I found it at this, my wife and I were in the Midlands in this area in South Africa, and it was a leather shop, and I walked in and they had all these leather goods and bags and shoes and things, and I saw a hat. You know, and I'd been watching Yellowstone, and I've had my eye on a cowboy hat, like a proper cowboy hat where you walk in and they make one to fit your head. And I saw this hat and I was like, oh, that hat looks so good. Like, it's probably not going to fit. I put it on. It fit like a fucking glove. Like, it was perfect. So I was like, all right, I don't really care how much it is. Like, this thing's going home with me. And I wore it like that weekend, and I wore it a few more times when I went back to Johannesburg. And then I was on this trip in the New Grenadier in July going through Africa. And I was like, okay, this is going to be my African hat. Like, I'm taking it with. And I wore it like a few times. But then once I went to Namibia on the first rotation, that's when it like, I felt a part of it. And it got beat down. It was dusty, it was beat up, and then like I remember coming home from Namibia and cleaning it, wiping it down. I think when I came back from Namibia, I actually went to a leather shop in Cape Town, and I was so excited to go get like some leather conditioner. Yeah. And I just wiped it down, cleaned it, and waxed it.
It's like a duck wax. Have you tried that? It comes with a little sponge, like a little applicator sponge. We used to use it on the
boots.
The trials.
So I had
boots,
some Red Wings, and I had like a mink oil, and then I've got one like a bear wax or something. So I've got like a box of stuff. Yeah. And it was so good. So I've not used the duck wax. I've used mink oil and a few other ones, and it just.
So what's the mileage on that one now? Do you think? 10,000 kilometers. Air miles, we're not including air miles.
Just bike miles, two-wheel
bike miles.
20,000.
Just 20,000.
20,000. So I started. I did a post on Instagram about a month or two ago, and it was rehashing all the stats from my travels from mid-July.
Fair.
So this hat was with me on every single trip, and it was 20,000 Ks.
Wow.
5-6 countries. So South Africa, Mozambique, Lesotho, Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe.
That's class.
So that's not only 20,000 miles.
Here
that's
we are.
20,000.
Here we are here. So that's another
Wales.
country.
Yeah.
England and Wales.
Yeah.
England as well. You've been so.
Have you been to the UK much before then?
First time.
First time in the UK.
So technically second. I had a long layover once. Was in London. I had a meeting at the bike shed in like 2016.
Right.
So I walked in, with my suitcase and left. But that doesn't. I don't think that counts.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you meet Dutch?
I did. I did. So we did a motorcycle ride in 2015 called the Bubble Run.
Okay.
It's like our annual motorcycle run that we have in December. And in 2015, we put a film together, and I wanted to go spread the word about what we were doing in South Africa.
Yeah.
Sounds familiar?
Yeah.
And so I took the film to New York. I was there to go see some friends and visit family. And then on my way back through London, I was like, well, let me go show Dutch. And I'd reached out to him, and he was kind enough to come watch it, or, take 15 minutes to watch the film. And I think that was like shortly after they opened up.
Yeah.
So they were still quite new. Met Dutch and Vicky.
Yeah.
And then I was actually there on Friday. I had a meeting with one of the guys that works there to talk about, doing adventures and stuff in South Africa. So
yeah, they're a cool bunch down there, aren't they?
Circle. Yeah, it's a big spot.
It's a cool location. Dutch is your best mate, isn't it?
Yeah, I met him once.
Met him once.
He was just he was in there having his breakfast. He was having some freshly squeezed orange juice, and I approached him in the canteen area, and I asked him how I could get some exhausts for my Triumph, because he had at the time the bikes hadn't been out that long, and he had like the decat. People were putting the X pipes on to get rid of the cat. Yeah, but he had a proper nice piece. Nice, isn't it? So I was like, "Oi, Dutch, drop your juice. Tell me your secrets." And he took his time and did, to be fair. So
that's great.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy.
Because that was how he started. Was like he used to blog about custom motorcycles, right?
Yeah, he did a few builds and stuff, didn't he? But is he spending much of his time out in America now, in LA?
That's what they told me. Is that most of his time spent in LA now.
Yeah, that
What
looks
a place.
that place looks epic as well. Doesn't
Yeah,
it?
we're gonna have to go there as well.
That was a good trip that we went on. So we let you work Saturday, didn't you? You
Yeah,
worked the
that's right, yeah.
Saturday. So we left
You
here
met
at
me
about
outside here.
3:00, and we went to a place called Caffeine and Machine,
Okay.
which is
Dan and Phil, another plug for you.
Dan and Phil, they're good, epic guys. It's a bit like Baffle House, but a little bit bigger car scene type. But
Okay.
good, that sort of community.
And where is this? Cardiff.
No, that is up north.
No,
Not far from the NEC-ish way,
Oh,
really.
okay.
It's
Yeah,
that
Midlands.
kind of
Okay.
yeah, that
Stratford.
kind of that kind of
Stratford
way.
area.
So we went there, stayed the night. We had a beer at that place. Then we went. I always laugh at this because we went to the hotel, which was only like 3 mile away, but I had one of these bubble tinted
Bubble
visors.
shield. Yep.
Right, I couldn't take it off. How I stayed on the bike. We turned into the hotel, and the road kind of wind down to this nice. It was a nice hotel. I just went straight over the curb, straight over the grass, not realizing where the fucking hell I was going. And then we went down to the infamous Ace Cafe for breakfast,
Okay.
which was cool. And then we ended up watching the MotoGP in the bike shed, and it was hilarious. We pulled into the bike shed. You know, we'd done the rat run through London, pulled into the bike shed, and that's where you can have. There's tables, isn't this? You ride through the tables. It's epic, that idea. I look in my mirror and I just see Jamie. He's so kind of like starstruck with the place.
Oh yeah.
This guy's tucking into his panini, and Jamie nearly joins him onto the table.
Oh
He's
no!
like, yeah, literally, like he's like looking around and he's heading straight for this table. It was I was an
Spilled his
epic
flat
trip.
white, I think. But
Oh,
you
shit.
did, yeah.
no, that was good.
apparently
We had a good roast dinner and a shandy, and then headed home then on the Sunday evening. But yeah,
that
we
was
need some more of that again. Those adventures were
Yeah.
great.
So in terms of Bonafide,
Yeah.
where did that start? I've heard beer oil. I've heard
Beard.
salon, not salon, barbers.
Yep.
What's the
So it started with it started shortly after I moved to South Africa. It was because I moved to South Africa so quick, I couldn't get a work permit.
Okay.
So I started working at a secondhand Harley shop, and I was like, shit. This is a place where they're not going to tell me I need to shave my beard. You know, I'm no longer working for a corporate, and I can finally grow out my facial hair. And so my beard started getting long, and it got to a point where my wife was like, you know, you really need some beard balm to kind of maintain that. And unfortunately in South Africa, we couldn't find any. And so she was quite resourceful, and she said, look, I'm going to make you some beard balm. And she made some for me, and then she had some leftovers and gave it to some friends. They loved it. I loved it. And we were like, okay, well, there's a gap in the market here.
Yeah, nice.
You've got a good product. There's demand for it from other people. So she started selling it at markets, and literally would jar it up, would handwrite the labels. And, you know, her name is Monique. People call her Mona.
Right.
And then there was a nickname, Mona Bona. So we're like, okay, let's call it Mona Bona's Beard Balm. And so that's what it was when we would sell it at markets. And after 3 months of it doing really well, we took on this guy to kind of help us with the business. And he said, look, you know, you've got a good product here, but you know, this whole thing, Mona Bona, is I don't know if I should put it on my beard or put it on my dick. So, you know, maybe consider, you know, changing the name a bit. And so to keep it close to Mona Bona, he said he had mentioned Bonafide, and we kind of looked up so funny, the headphones. We kind of looked up the name.
Do you want to sort them?
Yeah, I'm busy over here. Yeah. So we looked up the definition of Bonafide, and it's genuine, real, and authentic.
I've been doing my homework on you. I did that.
Good man. Good man.
That's class. That's got some meaning behind it.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, you know what? I like that. I like that name, and I felt like that's who we are. We both kind of put ourselves out there, and you know, I don't bullshit people. I don't think I deceive people, and it was a solid name.
Yeah.
So Bonafide Beards started, and I was meeting guys who had motorcycles, who had beards, and were buying the product. And, I started to have friends. I moved to South Africa. I knew one person. And so that's, by working with Bonafide Beards and selling the beard products, I was able to meet guys on motorcycles. And then that was when I found a coffee shop near the house that was quite cool. And I, sent a message to a couple guys and said, hey, what do you think about going to this coffee shop on Saturday? So there was 4 of us. I've got a photo of that first time where there was 4 of us there. The next week there was 7, then there was 11, then there was 13, and then it was a thing.
Nice.
And that was ultimately how Bonafide Moto Co got started.
Okay.
And there was at one point where my motorcycle had broken down. So I got in the car and brought my camera with. And by bringing my camera with, I was able to get some like really cool photos. And that's how I started what I call like making it a thing.
Yeah.
So I would take a cool photo and I would put text over it. And then that was the event flyer.
Yeah.
Like it was called, because we met on a Saturday, the place we met was called Priest Espresso Bar. So I was like, all right, let's do a little play on words here. So we called it Bonafide Mass. So
Right.
we didn't meet on Sunday, but we met at Priest. So it was Bonafide Mass.
I like it.
So I had this poster, Bonafide Mass, and, we would meet all the time. And then that community element, we just built on more rides, weekend rides, more exploration. And then eventually, we've had the bubble run that we do. Next year will be 10 years of that event. So
Awesome.
it's been around, Bonafide's been around for a long time. And it was only really the past 3 years where I've found what I believe is our clear objective for the business. And it's also, I've found it's my purpose in this life is to take people on motorcycle adventures in Southern Africa. I don't want to do tar rides. I don't want to do that. I want to go to remote places.
Life-changing adventures then, yeah?
Yep.
What would you describe yourself as part, because I think someone said, oh, you're a tour guide on the thing, and you went,
whoa now, boys.
Whoa, because this ain't, and that was no tour.
No.
That was an adventure.
Yeah, we say I actually
journey.
wrote this. Yeah. I actually wrote this thing like after Namibia and Botswana. I realized like, okay, I never used the word tour.
Yeah.
Apparently, I need to use it for my fucking website's SEO so that people can find me. Because I had a call with someone the other day, like, when I type in South Africa tours, you just don't come up. And I'm like, yeah, no shit. Yeah. Because you won't find that word on my website. So
you could say not tours.
Yeah. I need to get clever with it.
Yeah. It's a journey, not a tour.
Yeah. So I say we do adventures. It's not easy stuff. It's hard, challenges, but super rewarding.
Oh yeah.
And an opportunity for you to grow as a person. Yeah. So, when we were at the NEC, Andy introduced me as his like life coach, I think he said. So it's like somewhere between a tour guide and a life coach.
I like it.
It's hard for me to say like when I meet people like, oh, what do you do? Because on one hand, I'm a commercial photographer. Yeah. It's something I'm passionate about. But ultimately, I'm a motorcycle adventure guide.
Yeah.
There was a description I had one time of an experience generator.
Yes.
I
like it.
I don't really know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Luckily, I don't label myself.
No.
Or I don't put myself into one box. So
don't need to.
You can describe me whatever suits you.
I just call you the legend or the general.
The general.
Yeah, one of those. In terms of, you mentioned it earlier, and we never delved into this as well, in terms of your neck and you breaking your neck. So I remember agreeing to go on to this tour, and I had no real expectations. I say tour, adventure. I had no real expectations on what it was. In fact, actually, I used the word tour because that's what I thought it was before going on it. I thought, right, we're just going on a road trip round Namibia, completely kind of naive. And then I started following you on Instagram. So tall right now is your Instagram tag, personal Instagram tag. Bing.
Yep.
down in the
And-
description.
Yeah,
You guys are gonna get that
Bon-
nailed.
Bonafide
Eventually.
Co. Yeah, bing. And I think it was probably about 5 months before we went to Namibia. You kind of had your neck brace on, and you were giving updates, and I was thinking,
This
is
guy's gonna take us to
yeah,
Namibia.
Is this trip going? Is this trip going ahead? Is this what?
Yeah.
So yeah, what happened there, mate?
Yeah, I was taking, this was in October last year. I was taking a group to a place called Sani Pass. So it's a iconic mountain pass in southern Africa. It heads from South Africa into Lesotho. So it's actually like on the border between the two countries. And I'd done like a 10-day medical course in Cape Town, flew back from that 3 days later, had packed up and went to Namibia to do 12 days in Namibia, drove back from Cape Town. And then like the week later, I had this trip at Sani Pass. And I was exhausted.
Yeah.
And on the second day of the trip, we had gone through a section of dirt, and then there was a section of tar with like these blind rises, and the blind rise would go up left and up right. And there was just this, I mean, I look back on it now, you would be like, how the fuck did he fall? Like that's Joe. But it was just, a lapse in judgment or whatever that might be. And so the road went up and it went left. And I just realized too late that I needed to brake. And I was in off-road mode, and the back wheel locked up and it threw me on the ground, and I went sliding across the tar and into the grass. I think I was maybe going between like 60 and 80. So not that, I wasn't going that fast.
Yeah.
And also I was not photographing at the time.
I was going to, we'll come on to
A
that.
lot of people ask like, hey Joe, like, you were photographing, weren't you? I was like, actually, I was not.
Right.
And so when I came off, I'd slid into this like bush, and the momentum flung my neck inwards.
Okay.
Luckily, I was wearing a neck brace, so that stopped my neck from going any further. And I when I was laying there on the ground, I wasn't in pain, but I knew something was up with my neck. I felt, that something had happened, and I knew something was wrong. And I laid there on the ground and I was like, okay, what do I do? I'm responsible for this trip, but now I'm fucked. And, something's not good here. And so eventually I kind of got up. I made the call to stand up and move around. I know that with a neck injury, you probably shouldn't move, but I asked the guy who, did my medical course, was this the right call? And he said, yeah.
Right.
You made the right decision here. So they loaded my bike up onto the trailer. I got in the Defender, drove like an hour and a half to the hospital, and there they found out that my neck had fractured 2 vertebrae. So luckily, they chose to let it heal, not to do surgery. And I was put in a neck brace. The first neck brace that I had, it was like Forrest Gump's leg brace. Those old poles and things that he ran and broke. It was basically like the neck version of that.
A cool look then, yeah.
Oh God, it was. There's photos. I've got photos for you.
Right.
I'll send
put
it
photos
through.
here.
So I had that neck brace for about 3 weeks. It was very limiting. It went up my neck and then it went around my chest, and I had to wear that full time.
I remember seeing it. on Instagram.
It was brutal.
Yeah.
So
It was brutal.
no surgery then, Joe?
No surgery.
No, so that's
I'm really glad. I was, I think there's a part of me that like, okay, maybe surgery would be better because then it
Right.
gets fixed. But, surgery on the neck, you obviously run a lot of risk.
Yeah.
And, I was in that brace for 3 months, and
Wow.
it was a dark time. Like I think I had the potential for it to be a good opportunity, to make that a positive 3 months.
Yeah.
But I took it quite hard.
right.
I've got an addictive personality, and unfortunately, all those kind of addictions came up of ways for me to cope with that stress in that dark period where, I'm not able to go out and do the things that I normally do. And it could have been handled better,
Yeah.
but it was also what I knew. you know.
And
I've gotten through it now.
and it was a small window in your life, isn't it? So
You come out a stronger man the other side, mate, and that's the main thing.
Eventually, yeah.
So have you got any other metal in your body at all?
None.
None.
That was, funny enough, that was the first time I broke a bone. And I went all in on that one.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what one to break?
Yeah.
You seem more relaxed now. That's because we need to get into the Namibia trip. Because
I wasn't there, mind.
No, I know, but you watched and you could.
I feel like I was there, though.
I have mentioned it once or twice, haven't I?
Yeah, no, superb. Go on, let's go. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it then.
So when
get
you
into the nitty gritty.
When are you coming to Namibia?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I'm game.
Well, let's talk about the bubble run first.
Yes,
because that's something we could.
Yes,
because
we touched
that's
on
a
that
shorter.
earlier.
Because that's probably the challenge being kind of where we are and your job and stuff is the length of time.
Yeah, talk us. What is this bubble run?
So the bubble run is it started in 2014. It was inspired by what they have in the States called traditional motorcycle runs. Right. So on the East Coast, you've got the Gypsy Run. So where it's like the way they started was you take everything with you on your motorcycle that you need for the trip, and that's it. Cool. So it's like a lot of old school choppers, Harleys, like it was my vibe. Yeah. So when I moved to San Diego, I had a Harley, and out in San Diego, they had been doing a ride called El Diablo Run. Okay. And it starts at the Biltwell head office, which is in Encinitas, I think. Make it there. It's just north of San Diego. They ride down Julian through the Anza-Borrega Desert, down to Mexico on the east side, and then on the west side. And I had the opportunity to do it once, and I loved it. Yeah. So then the next year, I moved to South Africa. I had some friends who invited me to this town called Sabi, and it's in an area of South Africa called Mpumalanga, and it was amazing. Like the tar riding. So I was on my Harley, and the tar riding was just incredible. Yeah. And
when you say tar riding, you mean like on the road?
Yes.
Like,
like tar ride. Tar roads. Yeah.
Tar road. Nice, good roads, smooth.
Some potholes. Right. In South Africa, you'll see there's potholes. Right. Yeah. But such twisty roads. So there would be some sections where it's tight and twisty. Yeah. And then there's other ones where it's big, sweeping turns, and you're just cruising through. And it was such a nice mix of road conditions. And it rained a lot while we were there, and we all had those bubble shields that you mentioned. And there was one night I was laying in the tent making some notes and was just feeling really inspired about like this weekend. And I was like, I need to do this. Like, I need to make this a thing. And I was like, I need to call it something. So I would love to know if I have it in my notes still. But I was like, let's call it the Bubble Run. So the next year I spent making a website, got a friend to do a logo, and made an event out of it. And the next year there was 25 people who had come to the Bubble Run. And, back then, man, it was basic. It was basic stuff. I remember there was somebody with a coffee grinder, like grinding coffee for like 10, 15 people. We're all taking sips, and that was the beauty of it, was that each year we've kind of built on and added more to it. And it was only the past couple years that we really got it right. The first couple years we would go in town and go to restaurants at night, and the guys would booze, and then people are riding back at night, and it was just unsafe. And when we first started doing it was all tar riding, and then there was guys that would show up on adventure bikes, and in that area there's some great dirt riding. So eventually we was like, okay, cool, let's open it up to anyone who wants to join, whether you're on a tar, like a Harley, or if you're on an adventure bike, there's different routes for you. Oh, nice. So each day when you're there at the Bubble Run, you can decide whichever routes you want to do. We kind of give you suggested routes of the day. And then the other thing that we do now is that we work with a local restaurant in town. He comes to set up like a chow hall or a dining hall, like a big army tent, so that breakfast and dinner is both served at camp, so that after you've after you've been riding all day long, usually people come back between 2 and 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
You know, something like that. Get off the bike. You don't touch the bike the rest of the day. We've got a bar for you to go drink, partake in whatever else you may want to, and then you are done for the day. Dinner is served at the chow hall. It's an opportunity for everyone to kind of have dinner together. I think the last year that we had it was like the sort of the final year of COVID. So we had some restrictions. There was like 76 people. So
Cool.
it's still quite intimate.
Yeah.
You know,
So when is that on? Which month?
So we always have it in December. It's usually the second weekend of December. And so next year, 2024, it's December 11th through the 15th. So we've got those dates locked in. And, you know, I was thinking about
we're
guys.
not gonna miss Christmas and a bit of winter sun.
Yeah, perfect.
Yes.
Sounds dreamy, mate.
You come to summer. Like that's our peak summertime.
Yeah.
So while it's cold here, not much light, you go to South Africa, you have a great time, and it's such a vibe. And like I've learned a lot about that event over the years. And, you know, we've always kind of kept it grassroots. Yeah. You know, Bonafide's not a big business. We keep it simple, but now we see the potential of it and to really deliver like a great experience to people. And one of the things we do that you'll really dig is on the last day, we have what's called the Moto Games. So Motel's a partner of ours, and we have the last day, it's a full games day.
Nice.
So we have the keg push, where you put the keg in front of the front wheel, and you've got to push it from here to the finish line. Egg on a spoon. So you've got to ride with the spoon. You put the egg, and then you've got to ride to the finish line and without dropping it. There's an obstacle course where there's like you've got to take a cone and take it off this pole and then put it on that one, and you know, different things. And then there's the slow race, and it's a really fun day. And we actually we went through the whole roster. Everyone had to do it. There was some people that may have been a bit too intoxicated, so they didn't do it, and like we're okay with that. Good, but it's just a great way to get everyone involved to have a good time, because that's what it's about. Yeah, you know, once again, epic. Like in a big adventure, it's like a motorcycle summer camp. Yeah, that's amazing. Essentially. Yeah,
that sounds
good. We got to kind of pencil those dates in. That sounds amazing.
December 11th through the 15th, and it's the one rule. You've got the hat on, and that's the rule we've had for since day one of the business.
Yeah. Behave yourself.
Yep.
Be a good boy.
Treat people with kindness. Yeah. Clean up after yourself. Respect wait staff. Just be nice. Just be kind. And it's. I mean, I've had a 98.5% success rate. Yeah. In all my years. Yeah. Pretty good.
That says a lot, then, mate.
Yeah. It's huge, because like you go somewhere, like no one wants to get into a fight. No one wants to deal with shit. You just want to go somewhere. You want to have a good time, and like you just want everyone to be cool.
Chilled vibes.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome, man.
Yeah. So that's the bubble run.
Yeah. So touching on that. Thank you. Thanks for the hat as well. They're friends of yours, aren't they? Maison de Machine.
Yes. So House of Machines.
House of Machines. You went there as well, Tobes?
Yeah, I did. It's an epic place.
In Cape Town?
Yeah, it is in Cape Town, isn't it? Yeah, it's
that looked amazing.
It's a great place to finish the adventure. It was superb.
So what's so cool? I celebrated 10 years. I need to find out their exact birth date. Okay. Because I arrived here 10 years ago, November 6th. They're celebrating their 10 years. Their party is actually next weekend, celebrating 10 years of the house. But I know that their official date was like the past couple weeks. Yeah. So it's actually quite close.
Quite close,
yeah. 10 years.
I was invited, but I've got to work next weekend.
Oh, is it?
So there's a event in Lesotho called the Roof of Africa.
Ah, yeah.
And brand Motul, they've hired me to come shoot photos for that event. So unfortunately, I've got to work.
I've seen footage of that. Yeah, that looked the Roof of Africa. Yeah.
Well, talking about that type of work, the photography, you were sending some wild photos of the South African rugby team.
Yeah.
That was insane. You've got to kind of not party with them, but you were rubbing shoulders literally because they were about your height.
Yeah.
After they won the World Cup.
I said to RG Sneeman, I was like, dude, I need to get rid of my name now. So tall right now.
He's so tall now.
He's so short right now.
Yeah. Is he? No way is he taller than you.
Yeah, he's I know in inches, he's probably like another inch or two taller than me.
No way.
He's massive too.
Yeah,
but he's man, he's such a good guy, and he's become such a I feel like he's become such a good leader as well.
Yeah.
You know, how I got involved with that event was 4 years ago when the Springboks won the World Cup. There was a couple guys on the bomb squad who knew the owner of this tattoo studio called Fallen Heroes. They were down the street from me. They got the call that the Springboks were coming. They wanted tattoos. He phoned me, said, "Hey, Joe, would you like to come shoot photos of the Springboks?" I was like, fuck yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
As an American going to shoot photos of the South African Rugby World Cup winners, like, it's just weird, you know, but it was such an honor. And I knew how special it was for me to be in that position. Yeah. And that was a great experience 4 years ago. Then, you know, a week before they won this year, I messaged Tace, the owner of Fallen Heroes, like the week before. And I was like, hey, I don't want to send out any bad vibes, but we may be able to run this back again. And I was like, if you get the call from them, I'm in.
Really? So you predicted it in terms of if they do. Oh,
cool. It felt right. It felt like they were lining up to win again. Yeah. And I just felt like the stars had aligned. And so I think they won on a Saturday night.
Yep.
Monday morning, I get a message from Tace, dude. And I was like, shut up. He's like, yep, tomorrow it's on. And so we went to, he actually picked me up at the house. We went back to the airport at the hotel, same room that we were in from 4 years ago. Right. And RG was there at the door to the hotel waiting for us. And, you know, I hadn't seen him in 4 years. And luckily what's cool is that we've kept in touch on Instagram. Cool. And he's just been such a good guy. And, you know, he said, I've been following you and your neck and all this stuff. And so we go into the room and a couple players are in there. I see Pollard is in there. He's got his champagne goggles on. And they start bringing in like biltong and different things. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, it seems to be a bit different than last time. And I start filming just to like do a little video because I heard some music playing. And then here comes like the rest of the team. And then here comes the Webb Ellis Cup into the room. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, it was full on. So the whole team was there in the room the whole night. And I think I partied with them until like 2 a.m. It was a late one. I drank brandy and Coke out of the Webb Ellis Cup.
Wow.
Like, I had that
is insane.
pleasure to do that.
Not many people have done that.
It was so cool.
Are you comfortable for me to put a picture of you stood next to, is it public?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'll put a picture in the, because it's it's quite hard to see how tall you are. Every time I meet you, I'm like, wow, you are tall. But it's good to see you next to someone that is your sort of height, and it's just an epic photo.
There's some great moments, like some great photos that I took from that night. And, you know, one thing that I was told from the public relations lady was that, like, look, these aren't for public distribution. Yeah. When I got there was another reporter, a photojournalist who was there. He had heard about it. He was trying to get in, and they said, nope, you're not coming in here. And RG was there, and he said, look, this guy was here a couple years ago. He did the right thing. We vouched for him. He's cool. So he had my back, allowed me in, and I was, you know, I think for me it was more about being there to be a part of that experience and to share some of those moments with them in the photos rather than selling those images. Like, I got contacted by 6-7 different publications afterwards. Really? Hey, can we get this photo? And I said, no. Yeah. And I phoned the PR lady and I said, hey, I keep getting contacted by people. Yeah. I keep telling them no, but if this has changed for you, let me know.
Yep.
And unfortunately, there was a paper that had contacted me. I said, look, I'm putting some photos out on my Instagram page tomorrow, and that's it. And
Yep.
they were all classy photos, tasteful photos. And unfortunately, they like screenshotted my Instagram and then put them out into the newspaper the next day. So it was kind of a shitty thing.
Yeah.
But also, when you put your stuff out there on social media, like you kind of hand over
Yeah.
those rights.
Yeah.
So you know, I felt like they would do that, and that's just all about them trying to capitalize and take. And you know, they wanted that opportunity. They wanted to get those photos that I had opportunity to shoot, which I understand. But
Well, it's such a unique
Yeah.
experience, isn't it?
we said it was like a once in a lifetime experience that happened twice.
Twice. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nicely done,
Wild.
mate.
Yeah. But I think the last thing I'll say on that is that those guys, like from RG, felt like he was a younger, sort of more immature player 4 years ago, and he's developed into such a respectful leader.
Yeah.
And that whole team was super respectful, very kind. And I think it's because they understand their role.
Yep.
It's that they're playing for South Africa. They're not playing for themselves.
Yep.
They understand that South Africa needed a win as a country and a big positive shift because it's a lot of negativity there.
Yeah.
And I think when that whole team understands that, you get some magic, and I think that's why they won.
It's more powerful than just rugby, isn't it? You
Yep.
know, you can see that the first time they won as well. That was an emotional time. The first time they won.
Yeah.
So that's 4 years ago. Not
Yeah.
the first time, but
Yes. So the future then, Joe, to touch back on it with Bonafide now. So you're hoping that someone else is going to come on board, lighten the load a little bit with you.
Yeah.
And then you don't really want the business to grow huge, as you discussed. You like it small as is. So is that the plan then, just to make your life a bit easier from here on in, is it?
Yeah, just to get some extra help.
Yeah.
I think helps me a lot because there's a lot of roles that I play on these trips.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think if I were to have one job, you do that job at 100%.
That's it.
You start to split it up. You can never do all the jobs at 100%. So I am looking for someone to kind of help me with the riding aspect of the trip. I've got someone who's doing support.
Yeah.
My buddy Werner, who's driving,
Yeah, if you heard that
he
name,
does it all, man.
Yeah,
you're not
have you heard the name? Is it Werner?
Werner.
Yeah, if you heard the name, can you tell us a little bit about Werner? What's the score with him then?
So
Is he like
Werner's
your right hand man, or?
yeah, he's an engineer by
Okay.
trade. He's like, I feel like he could build this place, you
Yeah,
know, like
honestly.
from the furniture to the furnishing of everything. He could outfit the pipes and everything in here. He could do.
Nice.
He was riding with us for quite a while, and I was really enjoying him as a riding partner on some of the trips we were on.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, 2-3 years ago, he was in a motorcycle accident, really bad, and he's like shattered his ankle
Yeah.
to the point where it's just unsafe for him to go off-road.
Okay.
And so he runs a risk.
Yeah.
If he were to
Yeah.
go off-road, he could go have a good time, but something happens, his ankle would probably be destroyed for life, possibly.
Okay.
And
How was he during that time? Because Werner is honestly, I've not met anyone as positive as him. He can turn his hand to everything. All of us went through some fairly dark times in Namibia for certain reasons. But Werner just doesn't, he's just on a natural plane. But obviously that motorbike accident was serious. Did he dip, or was he just same old Werner? How was he? Because
so I can't entirely answer that question.
yeah,
I know that at the time when he was in hospital for quite a long time.
Yeah.
I want to say he had like 20-something surgeries, and this was during COVID. So he was in the hospital during COVID. He got COVID.
yeah,
Oh.
And I think it was really tough for him. And we've had a couple conversations about it, and he's kind of shared that it was tough, but I don't see it really, you know,
I've not met anyone like him. He's just
being tough. Yeah, I know he had a tough time, but like it's so different, and he was able to, I think, kind of let go
Yeah.
of that. And, you know, when I started looking for, like, I needed someone to help me out as a driver, and I missed having him on a trip. And one day I reached out to him. I was like, hey dude, like, I don't know if you're keen, but I need someone to drive and that can do some mechanical stuff. You know, would you be interested to join? And he's like, fuck yeah. Like, I miss those trips. Like he's an adventurer as well. He's traveled all throughout Southern Africa, and he wanted it. And I had concerns. I had concerns that his ankle was going to be a liability, and that he might not be able to get the jobs done that I needed.
Yep.
And, you know, I challenged him on that, and he's like, I can do it. And I was like, I want you to try because I want you on this trip, and I will be there to help you with whatever you need as well.
Yeah.
And man, he was fucking legit that first time. And it's just been such a great fit. And I think
he can barbecue, he can do the mechanics, he drives,
he's a good time, he's a good laugh.
Yeah, he dance.
Yeah.
Dance. The guy can dance, right? There was this in the secret camp spot that you took us to, which is epic, in this kind of like a quarry, isn't it? An old quarry type thing. And we'd had a fairly long day, as always, you know, some challenges and some epic roads. That final road is epic. We got there, and Werner was behind with some of the guys in the support truck. But it was getting dark, but all the food was in the support truck. So we were just chilling in this place. Werner pulls up. I forget the song that he had pumping.
Was it Fuck the Police?
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was. And he just drove up, and he just got out, and he's just like, fuck the police.
Yeah.
And the lights are strobing. And it was just hilarious. It was,
It was so good.
Straight out of Compton.
Yeah, it was straight out of Compton. It was so funny.
It was so good, man.
But he's a top draw guy.
He's Bonafide.
Yeah.
He is, you know, I wasn't looking for a driver. I wasn't looking for a mechanic. I was looking for someone that could have a couple roles, you know, to play. And, you know, he's the dude.
Yeah.
He's the dude. And like you asked earlier, like, what's the future of the business? Like, you know, I've had a lot of guys say, you know, they look at what I do from a business perspective, which I always appreciate because, you know, at the end of the day, I run a business and I'm looking for ways to put food on my table. And fortunately, unfortunately, the way this business is positioned, it's not really scalable in terms of like other tour operators or other tour companies that are out there where they have like a big team of people and it's a big machine.
Yeah.
And, you know, that doesn't really appeal to me.
No.
I'd rather keep it intimate. I believe that we offer something completely unique where the less frequency where I'm involved with it and that type of thing, I think that's a sweet spot. And like, I will
dilute it.
I will never have like a lot of staff. I would love to find someone who can complement me and Werner, or Werner and I, to kind of help and take the load off certain things. I think that's the way to do it. But ultimately it'll be a smaller business and, you know, like with the photography thing, that's other ways for me to bring in an income throughout the year and be fine with that. You know?
Yeah. Cool. Everyone needs a Werner.
Mate, hold up your knuckles for the camera. Show the genuine article that you are. Look at that.
Bonafide.
It was a t-shirt idea.
Yeah.
That we had one day. Someone was like, I think it was my wife was saying, you know, Bonafide fits on knuckles. I'm like, how cool is that? And so we had this idea of like a t-shirt design just like this.
That's sick.
And I was like, son of a bitch. I was like, I phoned my buddy who's a tattoo artist like 5 minutes later. After the meeting, I was like, hey, Monkey. Dude, I got this. So his name's Jan Giebelman. I don't think it's like there's a monkey involved with his name, but it's Munky. And that's his name, Monkey. So he's done like this tattoo. He's done quite a few on me. Yeah. And I was like, Monkey, bro, like I've got an idea for a tattoo. Like, when do you have space? He's like, dude, I got space tomorrow. I'm fucking in. So literally the next day I went and that was it.
Cool.
And, you know, people see it and they're like, what's Bonafide? And, you know, I am my brand. I believe in my brand and what I do. And it's one of my favorite tattoos for sure.
It's really cool.
Yeah,
really
cool.
that. Like I say, I did have a little Google, and it does suit you, mate. You are the genuine article. So well played.
Yeah,
And,
thanks, Jamie.
Yes, been great meeting you again, mate.
Yeah.
Well, only yesterday I met him, but
Yeah. He came up to me at the parking lot, and he's like, "Hey man, I'm Jamie," and
expecting
shook
you
my
to know me
hand,
like I'm a celebrity. You've got 35 subs now.
and I'm just like looking into his eyes. I'm like trying to figure out. I'm like, okay, Jamie, and I'm like, okay. Then eventually it was Rag and Bones, the connection with you.
Yeah.
Hit, and I was like, okay, I got it. But I was like,
I know it.
he's in another town. Like, what's he doing here?
Yeah.
You know?
I was out of my jurisdiction a little bit, but
Yeah.
I
But
do
you were
like-
on the Harley, or were you in the car?
I was in the car. I'd been with a friend. We'd been up to Bristol. My friend picked up a new car, so he'd never been to Baffle, so it was just the stars aligned, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stars
That
aligned.
was cool. And we're seeing
Amazing.
you again on Saturday.
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool.
Saturday, big day.
Well, and so Joe, you're staying over tonight. We're going to go for a few beers after this,
Yeah.
and then
Yes.
we've got a 6:30 a.m. sea dip. So
Yeah,
Jamie and I
can't
go
wait.
in most mornings in the morning. That'll be an
I
experience.
can't wait.
Breakfast here, then I'm taking you down around the Gower Peninsula, which will be
Amazing.
good for you.
What are you gonna have for a drink tonight, Joe?
I might try some of that cider.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were chatting about ciders last night, so
Yeah.
I think I might.
You can't get a good cider anywhere near where you live, can you?
No.
Too sweet.
They just seem. No one does it right.
No.
Yeah.
Maybe they do. Maybe there are brands that do it, but cider's not really a thing.
Yeah.
Last night though, I did have for the first time an amazing pale ale from this place called Horseshoe, and I think as the crow flies from Baffle.
Yeah.
It's probably within a kilometer.
Oh, I know where it is.
Up
Yeah,
there?
Yeah.
And Rowan, Liz, and I went there for dinner. And, Rowan's like, what do you want? And I saw like a pale ale. I was like, yeah, I'll try the pale ale. And the lady started pumping it.
Yeah, nice.
And I was like, what the hell? And that was my first time having like a pumped,
It's like a proper
pumped
cask
beer.
ale,
Yeah, it was cool. It was
Yeah.
cool. And
Yeah.
that was a delicious pale ale. One of the things I wanted to do while I was in Wales was to go to like a proper pub out on a lane with the good food, and that place at Horseshoe Inn really ticked all the boxes.
We'll have to find somewhere
Yeah.
tonight to do that as well.
I've got some backstreet pubs for Joe.
that'd be
Perfect.
good. Yeah, we'll go.
I think I'll maybe hold off on the cider.
What
I'll
do you
go
have?
into the
Did you have
pizza.
a pork belly to eat last night, was it?
Yep.
Ah,
Pork belly with
that looked
the
nice.
black pudding mash.
Oof,
Nice.
It was so good.
that
Coming
was-
back to the cider, right? I'll tell you a quick story of when.
mouth's watering a minute.
Yeah, I know. Going back to the cider, I'll tell you a quick story about when I first ever had cider. My dad worked for this guy that had 2 fields.
What was
and he
his name? Die what?
No, die the fast talking die. No, so he had 2 fields that he used to just have some Highland cattle in, and used to grow the grass and then cut the hay. So we used to do harvest every year. And my dad used to go up, and I used to love going up and doing harvest, cutting hay bales and putting them on the tractor. I was probably about 10 or 11. It was less than a mile from my house, so we cycled to this place, right? My dad was out on the tractor, kind of driving that, and the boys had a flagons of cider. So they offered me a little bit, so I had a little bit. I just thought, oh, it's apple juice. So I started drinking this stuff while they were out on the tractor. I must have had a shed full of this cider. I was only like 10 or 11.
Strong, man. Some of that.
My dad's, it was, especially when you're 9 or 10, never bloody had it. My dad, just proper working lad, never really noticed. We jumped on the bike. I must have been I was behind him, right? I can remember trying to focus on him, literally just all over the road. I got home, my mum opened the door, and she's like, what's wrong with him? And Dad's like, oh, I don't know. I was blottoed, like literally couldn't walk. And I walked into the hallway. I just remember projectile vomiting everywhere. My mum was literally like, what's wrong with him? And it was only the next day that they realised that I'd got bladdered on cider without, I just thought it was apple juice, just drinking it.
Well, they have like the cider fest down in the Heritage Centre. I don't think I've really been to it much, but one of my mates was saying the other day, it's like they can't really sort of measure the percentage. So they have like two beers, 2 pints of cider and 2 glasses of cider, and they're like, next thing you know, they're on the floor wrestling, you know, just out of control, putting chips up each other's noses and like scrapping.
That's us
them.
tonight. That's us.
Like,
that'd
they're
be
amazing.
Yeah,
out
we'll
of
be
control,
safe.
like
I think
some of these scrumpies, but yeah, we'll indulge soon, I think.
Yeah, I think Friday we're going. Yeah, I was telling you guys Friday night we're going to see some band in Bristol.
Yeah.
And as we were chatting last night about ciders, Rowan and Liz said, "Oh, what about that place called the Apple? There's like some restaurant in Bristol. It's like a boat, and it's called the Apple, and they make ciders." So they're like, "Why don't we go there?" And I was like, "So that's our plan for Friday is to go there a bit early." Have some ciders and then go to the show. And so I think it's going to be a good Friday night.
That sounds good.
That's the area for it, though, isn't it? The West Country for all the scrumpies. So it's going to be. You're going to get some good stuff there, definitely.
Yeah. Powerful, though, Joe. Be careful. It's powerful stuff.
Don't have more than 2.
Yeah.
Right then. So the Namibia trip. We arrive in Namibia. We meet you. We have the infamous briefing. So we had a daily briefing, Jamie, from Joe, in terms of what we can expect the next day. In terms
do as the general says, basically.
Yeah, exactly that. How much tar, how much sand. He always kind of reduced the amount of sand distance. I think that was strategic because some of the guys were a little bit intimidated by the sand.
Do you have to... Yeah, sorry, Tobes. Do you have to suss out the riders? Because obviously they're going to be all abilities.
Yeah.
So do you just sort of sit back and watch them for the first couple of hours before you decide on your routes? Or do you do that on the first day? Or
no, so unfortunately, like the way my method works is that I go to an area and I recce that route on my own.
Okay.
Then the next year or later that year, there's a group of guys from Spain at Fuel Motorcycles that I take on this route.
I think I met one of those.
Isidoro, maybe?
Yeah, I met him.
Yeah,
I met him in Biarritz.
He's a great guy. He's supported me, for 5 years now. He's supported the business, and he always comes on these new trips, and because he's always keen on like a tough adventure. Cool. Like the tougher it is, the more he wants it. So I take them on a route, and then we go and do the trip, and then from there, I try to make things a bit better. So I'm always taking notes. I'm mindful of what went right, what went wrong. So after every trip, I send out a survey to everyone, and I try to ask hard questions, and I encourage people to be as honest as they can so that I can learn where I need to improve, what they liked about the trip, what they didn't like, what they think needs to be improved with the trip. So it's really figuring out how to keep improving. You know, I want to make better trips. I want to do a better job. I want to be a better leader and give people a great adventure. So, to go back to your question of the skills, unfortunately, the route is kind of set. I don't know everyone's skill level when they show up on a trip. And I'm changing how I do that. So I've now got like a sign up form where I ask the people there, what's their riding experience? How many years have you been riding? How often do you ride? Is it once a week? Is it every day? Is it once a month? Maybe you don't remember when the last time you rode off-road.
Yeah, of course.
And then it's about encouraging them to take training, to go for a ride. If you're going to come to Namibia, find somewhere, if you can, to find some sand. Yeah. Learn how to ride on sand. Prepare yourself, same as you would for a marathon. Yeah. You're not going to just go to a marathon and just run. Yeah. You're going to train for that because you want to make sure you're setting yourself up for success. And so, I've only found this out. Yeah. I've only realized this now after Namibia and after the time we had in Botswana where, shit kind of went pear-shaped and these guys weren't prepared for what we had. And I take that as my responsibility for not educating and not preparing these guys. So now it's about, asking these questions, encouraging people to go out and ride, find training. That's one thing I'm doing here while I'm in the UK is connecting with the Triumph Adventure Experience to figure out how can I get some of my riders involved with what you guys do. And then the other thing is that to set up like a Zoom or Skype call like 2 months before a trip, get everyone on a call and just kind of go through the admin of the trip. I don't want to talk about each day. Nope. It's pointless. It's more about, hey, like these are the visas you might need, cash. This is how the motorcycle rental works, where you pay a deposit. You're responsible for the damages. Before you get the bike, film the bike, look at this stuff and know that afterwards you're going to be responsible for it. So it's about preparing people for the admin side, right? As much as possible.
Sounds very professional, mate. I've got to say.
It's epic.
Sounds perfect.
I wouldn't change a thing. When you sent that survey, there were some things we discussed, but I wouldn't. It all added to it, and I think we'll get into that now. I know I keep saying that on these podcasts. We'll get onto it now. We'll get onto it now, right? But it was just the essence of it is cool. But you can really underestimate. I've done quite a lot of dirt biking, quite a lot of motocross, but I underestimated how challenging it would be on a motorbike.
That one was
tough. You've got to be physically fit as well, haven't you? You've got to get your cardio up.
Yeah,
something like
especially if you fall off a lot, because those Tigers are flipping heavy.
200 kilo, 200 kgs.
Yeah,
kilo.
Yeah. I think the Tigers 240, 220, something like that, somewhere in there.
I couldn't lift it up on my, like a lot of people just. I was struggling. I only dropped it once though, so. For me, like after you're talking about being in shape, like I hadn't been working out beforehand, and I was on a bike for probably 2 months, and from you've seen on some of the videos, like I think it comes from my military experience, was before we would go eat, there was these pull-up bars outside the chow hall, and we used to always have to do pull-ups. And I've just found pull-ups to be a great way to see if you're how in shape you are. Yeah. So I know that if I can do 10 pull-ups, I'm doing all right. Yeah. So at some point on the trip, I would always kind of look for a pull-up bar, and I would get bored, and I just kind of wanted to pull up. And I found I was actually in shape. Being on a bike for 2 months.
Yeah, it's a good.
I can't believe you found a
push-ups.
It's crazy when you hear people say that the bike does all the work for you.
Oh, fuck no!
It's just they just haven't experienced it.
Yeah.
It's serious.
It's
It's like, with enduro with us and stuff. And obviously, when I came back from Romania, I'd say I was probably the fittest I've ever been in my life. Yeah. At my age
hard
now.
work.
How many days was Romania?
That was 3 days.
3 days of solid riding.
It was solid.
Like
hold on. 160, 170 heart rate, pumping.
Yeah.
And technical, I guess, there.
I felt unbelievable when I came back. And obviously the altitude as well, I think. Yeah. Obviously, your lungs aren't, your lungs are working differently to what you used to.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the best forms of exercise you can do off-road motorcycling in any way, shape or form. I think it's one of the best things.
Touches every muscle, doesn't it? Because it literally touches every muscle.
Yep.
Yeah. Right, so Namibia then. So we'll come on to that in a bit. No, we'll come on to it now.
Do it now, boy.
So one of the things I used to look forward to after the first day was the briefing. I used to love the briefing because it was when we all got together and Joe would go, right, let's come to me, let's talk about what tomorrow has to offer. And you can just look around everyone, see like the apprehension and the trepidation in everyone's face in terms of, right, what the hell has he got in store for us now? Yeah. We experienced a lot, didn't we? So one of the questions I wanted to ask is, was our trip unique? Because it felt so special and so tight and so bonded. And I think I said to Tom yesterday when I was talking to him, from your perspective, if you do kind of establish those bonds every single rotation, that's an emotional roller coaster. Yeah. That is an emotional roller coaster because we struck up a brotherhood.
We went through some shit.
Yeah, we did go through some serious shit.
Actually, I had that conversation last night with Tom, and in the interview that him and I did, he asked me a question on camera, and it was similar to this, where, how do I manage the groups and the cohesion of the groups? Because the first rotation I had in Namibia, it was a tight group. Yeah. But we were a smaller group, and I felt like when we would be somewhere having a conversation, that there's one conversation. Yeah. Because we were such a small group, there wasn't 10, 12 people having multiple conversations. So we were all deeply connected. Yeah. I felt on that trip we had less challenges than what we had on our rotation. And I remember getting to Cape Town, finishing that trip and being like, fuck, man, this was just epic. Yeah. Great times, great connections with these guys that were so special. And I remember phoning my business partner because I was really worried as to how I was going to be able to manage this new group of riders. My job is about managing personalities and trying to understand that. And then at the end of the day, I always say this, read a room.
Yeah.
You need to be able to read a room.
Yep.
You know, I have to be flexible. What I did that worked well in the first rotation might not work for the second rotation.
Yep.
And I was really worried about this second rotation, that it just wouldn't work.
Yep.
And
we were the second rotation.
Yeah,
weren't we?
you guys.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And then, you know, everyone shows up. There's, you know, you're all kind of trying to feel each other out. You're trying to get to understand each other, and everyone's trying to find their place. You were saying earlier that, you know, you weren't quite sure socially how well that was going to work for you.
Yeah.
And what I found that works well is the rider briefs. It's getting everyone on the table. We didn't do it in Namibia, but it's something that we started on this Western Cape trip, was that, you know, before the rider brief of me talking, you know, and I think we actually did something similar, was that we all kind of went around the table, so that it's a way to get everyone involved in the conversation, so that you can be seen, heard, recognized. You have the stage for your time to say who you are, what you do, whatever that might be. Everyone gets an opportunity. So we've all introduced one another, shared some jokes and different things, and now the ice has broken. Okay, cool. Now we've all listened. Now I can come in and give a rider brief in terms of what you can expect. And what we ended up doing on the Western Cape trip was that each day we would do a highlight and low light of the day. So each night someone had an opportunity to share with them what, you know, they enjoyed the most and what they enjoyed the least and what they learned from it. And then again, I would do the rider brief. And the rider brief was always just, what's coming up tomorrow?
Yeah.
Because I want to give you as much relevant information that I feel like you need, so that you can maybe worry less about tomorrow and question less what's going to happen. And I do try to, you know, tone down the difficulty.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like, people, that's what people focus on. And, you know, there's no way around it. So I try to be as positive as possible and just say, look, there's going to be some sand, you know? And the reality was, the first rotation where we had in Namibia, the road conditions were easier. Right. They were different.
Okay. Yeah.
And I felt like that we had so much downtime on that first rotation. But for our group, the road conditions with the wind and the severe winds that were there just made things worse.
It was deep sand.
It every day was a struggle except the very last day.
Yeah.
And that was magical.
Yeah.
We put in hard work for 10, 11 days, and we were rewarded on the last day of a beautiful, clean, seamless day. And well, it was great.
I don't know what everyone was moaning about. Me and Rowan loved it.
Yeah.
It was
yeah.
We're going right. Everyone was at the briefings, and Joe was saying, yeah, there is sand, and everyone would be like, oh, how much? And me and Rowan would be going, yeah, how much sand? Because sand's epic. And but day 3 was a unique day, I think, in all of our lives, right? Because it was it was definitely the highest high from a motorbike perspective, the best day I've ever had on a motorbike, but also the lowest low in terms of anything I've experienced with a motorbike as well.
Yeah.
And that took some processing. Even when I got back, it took some processing. And Tom interviewed me yesterday, and it was the first time I've kind of spoken to him about it, but in an interview format, and it was weird. So to give a breakdown to you, James, and everyone else, day 3 started out in terms of leaving the hotel, epic, really cool hotel, lovely breakfast, left the hotel, went to some sand dunes and started to kind of ride around on the sand and
have a little play.
Oh, honestly, it was. I think my cheeks were hurting. These cheeks now, not the other. These cheeks were hurting, were because I was smiling so much. I was saying yesterday that on the way there, because the roads are so dusty, it must have aggravated my nose. I had the biggest nosebleeds I've ever had. I've never
That's
really
right.
suffered from
Yeah,
nosebleeds.
so dry.
I remember being like 50-50 in terms of the sand either side of the road going, I want to play, but blood pouring out of my nose and trying to hold my head up. And Joe stopped, and I sorted that out, and he said, yeah, just have a little play and then we'll go on the dunes. And I just remember thinking, this is like sideways on the bike. I was a bit out of control. Rowan's a bit more elegant, but sideways on the bike thinking, this is brilliant. Into the sand dunes, just seeing the struggles, you know, people helping people pick their bikes up, people falling, but people then getting the hang of it. And then me and Rowan kind of messing about a little bit. And that was epic. So then we moved on from the sand dunes. I won't kind of go into that too much in terms of that. So moved on from the sand dunes, saw some flamingos.
Yep.
Epic. Then we headed to easily the best spot I've ever been on a motorbike. It's like riding over the moon. Right, you're just literally riding over the moon. And I can remember coming up through this. It was pretty tricky to get there. It was like big rocks and sand, and it was pretty tricky to get there. And we were kind of blasting it through. And I remember looking round and seeing everyone with the nervousness on their face. And then I remember meeting Rowan's eyes, and they were like this, right? He was like,
pure joy.
have you seen over there?
Yeah.
And we were like maybe, I don't know, 20 meters up. I rubbish with height, right? 20 meters up, and there was like a little sand trail down into what looked like a mile long, the flattest you can see sand plain with like moon craters either side of it. Just insane place. I remember I went to bed laughing last night at Rowan's face because he had his goggles on, his helmet on. I could just see his eyes, just as if to say, "This is epic." We went down to scope it out, and then me and him went down first off. He kind of elegantly went, shh. I thought, oh, looks easy. I was like a ping pong ball going through down that side, and we went across this sand dune, top gear. I'm sure I hit about 130, 140 kilometers an hour, next to like the red arrows next to Rowan. And this sand, not knowing what's there, getting the old wiggle on, it was an insane place.
It's wild.
Insane.
Wow.
So to that point, it was like, this is the best day I've ever experienced on two wheels. It cannot get better.
No.
Wales were playing rugby that night. We were staying
right.
in a cool campsite. I could almost taste the beer. So we started heading off then. One of the sobering moments was, I think it's in the Guinness Book of Records as the most corrugated road known to mankind. It was like shaking us for what? It must have been about 2 hours, an hour and a half, maybe.
It's a long time.
It was a long time.
The road's tough.
Like literally shaking yourself to death. Got through there, and then we came up through the valley of the shadow of death. No, we came up through the valley.
I take a look at myself for real life stuff.
Came up through the valley, and the scenery was insane. I was in kind of a cloud of just this euphoria, just like, this is brilliant. So I was quite pushing the pace, I guess, and trying to keep up with Joe, pushing the pace. But this time I dropped back to number 9 out of 12, maybe number 10 out of 12, and just taking it easy, just gliding through. Joe, every now and again you stop, don't you, to check everyone's okay. So you pull over to the side of the road, check everyone is okay. So I'm coming down this really straight, dusty road, and I can see kind of bikes. I've got eyes like a mole, so I can see like bikes on the side of the road. So I thought, oh, Joe's just stopped and we're having a break. And I can remember thinking, oh, I want beer. We must be like 7 k's away.
9 k's.
Yeah, 9 k's away from the
away.
campsite. I just want beer, Joe. Come on, let's get going. And this is where I don't think I've had emotional switch up as aggressively as that. And I remember coming really close to the first bike, and that stopped, but no one at the bike. And then maybe 10 meters on, what I now know was an oryx, but is a antelope in a bad way. His head was facing the other way. The horns on it must have been 4 to 5 foot long, dead straight horns. And I just thought, at first, that's just roadkill. That's impressive. And then I came up to 2 other bikes that were 10 meters ahead of that oryx, and I came to a stop, and Salts and Sam were there. And they looked like just blank. I said, "What's up, boys?" And they said, "He's crashed." What do you mean he's crashed? He said, Tom's crashed. And at first I thought, Tom? What, our Tom? It kind of, from our guy. I said, yeah. And I said, what do you mean? What's he crashed into? And they said the Oryx. So Tom had hit this Oryx at, a fair pace, and was down the road. What must have been 100 meters? Am I kind of exaggerating there, Joe?
I think you're about right.
It was about 100 meters, right? Yeah. So I can see what I think was Joe, yourself, Rowan, and Phil around Tom lying down. And I'm getting a bit emotional now because it's flipping heavy stuff. And I can remember it just being like, all right, so he's probably banged up a little bit. He maybe, grazed or whatnot, and not really realising. And it was all a bit of a blur, but then I can remember Rowan standing up and walking. Now, Rowan Sorrell, who came on the trip, he's cool as a cucumber, isn't he? Nothing fazed him. Yep. Legend of a guy. I had a little bit of a holiday romance with him, but legend of a guy. He's in denial, but and he started walking towards me, or towards us as a group, and I remember him saying, Tom's in a bad way, and this is serious shit. And it was the realization that we are in the middle of nowhere on a dirt road, middle of nowhere, like hyenas everywhere, whatever. This is serious shit. And he was having breathing problems because we now know that he'd broken ribs, punctured lungs, he'd broken his leg, he'd broken his thumb, he was in a bad way. And I can remember Rowan then walking back, because he was kind of taking charge from a medical perspective because of his training and all that. And we all just dispersed. People were crying. People were kind of sat on the side of the road. It was just the heaviest moment I'd seen ever, right? And Tom handled it like a fucking trooper. Honestly, I would have been screaming my head off. And I said this to Tom yesterday when I was talking about it. So I've crashed motorbikes quite a bit. I've broken quite a few bones, but it's always been at events. So there's always been medical staff there. I've always seen the end.
Getting help right away.
I've got help and I've seen the end. I can't imagine what he was going through, just lying on the side of a dirt road, just going,
when am I going to get help?
So we ended up going, there was about 7 or 8 of us ended up going back to the campsite because it was starting to get dark, and we thought, right, we're not helping here, we'd get dark. Joe, you'd organised kind of emergency vehicles and stuff. But this is how mental it was. You guys, an Italian doctor stopped on the way, didn't she? It just happened. There was like 2 cars passed in the whole 8 hours that he was on the side of the road. And one just happened to be an Italian doctor that was on holiday with her family. This is how mental it was. She had pain meds, but the guys sterilized the needles with tequila.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Like a fucking cowboy film.
Yeah, real.
Sterilized stuff with tequila to give him pain meds on the side of the road. Then we were at the campsite, and there was about 5 or 6 of us on the table, and it was none of us was talking. We were literally in shock, just all stood around waiting for time, because the last we heard was Tom was gargling, couldn't really breathe. Rowan came over and actually said, I think this guy's going to pass on the side of the road, guys. I think Tom is going to, we were like, fuck. So we were waiting for some news, and then, this is tough, this, isn't it? So then he came, you guys put him on the door, on a plain door, because we didn't have a stretcher.
Yeah, the lady from Solitaire came in the truck and brought the board and the mattress.
Yeah, put a board. So he's lying on this door or board, put him on the back of a pickup truck and brought him to the campsite. And we made a makeshift hospital bed.
He's conscious now, though, and
he's conscious all the whole time. That's what I mean. He's conscious the whole time.
And he's still communicating.
The guy is like a trooper. Honestly, he's a trooper.
Yeah.
And in this hotel room type digs room, they've made a makeshift kind of drip we've taken a picture off the wall and hung the drip on the picture rail, put it in. And I remember the bag was maybe 5 foot higher than Tom, but kept on falling off this hook. And all I can think is, shit, if you get air in that pipe, that's bad news, isn't it? And I don't, there's safety things there, I'm sure. But I remember that at one time it literally fell off the hook onto his head. So he's like lying awkwardly on the thing, and this drip is just kept on falling on his head. I'm thinking, fuck, this is wild. If that was me, I like control. I'd be like, I am shitting it. And then he jumped in the ambulance after a fair wait, wasn't it? Because we're in the middle of nowhere.
You said it would be like something like an ambulance coming from Scotland to Swansea.
Yeah, it took him
just to give
I
our
think
viewers.
it took him 4 hours, didn't it?
Yeah,
5
it was
hours.
about 200 kilometers away on dirt roads.
Yeah, and it took him 4 hours to get
Yeah.
home, to get to a hospital.
Yeah.
And then that night and that morning was heavy, wasn't it? I remember seeing you. I just gone to the toilet and remember coming out of the toilet block and seeing you walking up the dirt road, and we were dealing with other shit then as well, weren't we? And I remember having just a brief chat with you, but us both being like, what the fuck is going on? You know, what have anyone heard from Tom? Do we know if he's alive? And I'm not dramatizing this, you know. But going through, I don't know what your experience was personally, but that highest high to that lowest low, that was a life lesson.
Yep.
It was just epic in every sense of the emotion.
It's really hard to have to deal with that sometimes, because, you know, being on a motorcycle, you know the risk.
Yep.
I mean, have you been in an accident on a motorcycle?
Yeah.
Like it's the saying of, it's not if, it's when.
Yep.
That is true.
Definitely.
I've been in three motorcycle accidents. You will crash, and it makes you a better rider.
Yep.
But it is a part of that thrill, that joy that we get from motorcycles. And so, you know, crashing a motorcycle and having accidents, it's a part of it. However, it doesn't make it easy to see your friends go through that. And, you know, to see Tom go through that process and what he dealt with. And, you know, if you have an accident out here, you're going to get help quite soon. But if you have an accident out in the middle of nowhere, it's going to take time.
Yep.
And you might not get help when you need it. And that was a big thing for me of, what can I do to make this process better for the next time it happens? How can I improve? What can I learn from this? And, you know, unfortunately, like, there's just, you know, you were asking, like, how do we deal with this? Like, what do we do? Like, sometimes we have to keep going. And we have to know that, like, you know, Tom made the decision to be on the ride and come here and partake in this. And, you know, Tom I'm pretty sure he'd been blown up before. He was in an IED.
Tom is, I've only met him recently, but that man is meant to be on this planet. Like, he's
had
a
some
cat with 9
serious.
lives.
Yeah, he's an amazing guy.
He's
And,
meant to be here.
to see how positive he was during that experience, I think was good for all of us to keep moving and go through and just continue on the trip.
I know I would be. I would have been freaking out if I was him. Not from the pain, because he must have been. His injuries were.
Well, the
full
list's on
list,
his. I was reading it earlier.
Yeah. Oh, it's full list and
severe.
And again, I know we mentioned it in our very first one. We will post the link to his GoFundMe, because he racked up that his insurance did not pay out for his medical bills, so he racked up a significant medical tally there. So please donate if you can. It would be much appreciated. But I remember just thinking, I would not handle it like this guy. I had so much respect for him, thinking, the guy's a trooper, honestly. And he made differently to me. Definitely.
And it's a great example of, you know, maybe how to deal with situations like that, and how to, you know, maybe not freak out, but, you know, like just the way he handled it, it's really hard.
Yeah.
Not everyone can do that.
No, definitely. But right, just wrap it up on the Namibia though. It was flipping epic. Other than that, it was the best. Epic. The riding, like me and Rowan, and this is why I think your adventures are different. I suspect they're different from others, because you let us, as you put it, fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
Which I think brings a different essence, because as long as you know your riding thing, kind of boundaries, that's fine. And me and Rowan, as you know, kind of wanted to go out and explore and maybe mess about a little bit and push the limits. Not once did you say, guys, stop. What you actually did was grab your camera and take snaps. And I think that was, I hope you agree, I don't think we pushed it in terms of being disrespectful.
Nope.
But it just definitely brought an element to that trip.
Yeah, for me, you know, some of the photography that I enjoy doing is when people know how to ride a motorcycle off-road and they can spin the back and they can, you know, go on a turn and make it look cool.
Yeah.
So whenever I'm on a trip and there's someone who can ride, I make note of that, and I really try to capture them when that happens. And on some trips, it just doesn't happen. You know, some people, they don't want to put themselves at risk, or they just don't have the skills to do that. And so they just ride and they follow the road. And when we stop somewhere and there's a sand dune over here to have like an endless playground, they just kind of look at it and they're like, oh, that would be cool.
Criminal.
And I'm like, fuck, man. All right. And you know, that's fine, because like we said earlier, each group is different, but you know, with you guys, that was the first time I'd say I've had riders that could actually ride like that, and that I could shoot photos of you guys doing that. It was so amazing to watch, and it was so much fun for me to shoot like that. And the other thing I must say is that at no point did I feel like you put other people's lives at risk. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing, because what happens, I've had it on a few trips, is where people are fucking around and they found out. Yeah. And, you know, they just shouldn't be doing it. And they crash, or they hit other people, or whatever that may be. And, you know, it's unfortunate when someone's just being a dick, and they shouldn't be riding like that. Rather know your comfort level, where your riding skills are at, and definitely, and do the right thing. And you guys just had a blast. I mean, we all enjoyed watching you guys, and you know, it was really fun to watch. And you know, I know for a fact that you guys always kind of had your eye out for other riders who are around you. How far Verna was back from you, so that when you hit the throttle, you weren't throwing rocks under the truck. So thank you for that. So yeah, it was really fun to watch people who know how to ride.
It was
considerate power sliding.
Yeah, that's right.
Respect, boy.
We were like immature kids, though. We would stop. We would stop at the back, do starts. We were doing. It was just
big.
Joe, what were your thoughts on one of his outfits he had on one of the days?
He's a man of his word.
Yeah.
It was a handful of days before
That's quite out of character from the Toby that I knew. So I was like, this guy's lost his marbles. Have you? This is good.
It was amazing, because
Borat is
I think someone had mentioned he had the suit. You mentioned you had the suit, and I said, I was like, it would be so cool if you wore that suit at the last day when we're in the Riverbed Canyon, because that would be a great photo. Man, we're sitting there kind of packing up or whatever it is in the morning. I just look out and I just hear people laughing, and I look over and I see Toby wearing the Borat suit with his helmet on, proud as can be, heading over to the motorcycle. And I'm like, that motherfucker, he did it. He said he was going to do it, and now he's doing it. And I was like, where's my camera? And so I go get my camera, and you're just ripping around for a while.
Yeah.
And that was just so funny to watch. And I'm sure for you, it was just like, this is fucking epic.
It was epic, because it was epic to see kind of, we're in that mid-morning kind of lull, not down, but it was just everyone just chilling, and it was epic to kind of just get people
Yeah,
laughing.
you were just
Bumped up
basically
the morale.
Just get people laughing and kind
reliving
of
your youth,
acting
mate.
around.
Really,
It
'Cause
was, yeah.
I didn't know him back then, but apparently he was quite crazy. So I could see him doing it back then. But
We
now
heard
to
some
do it again.
stories.
Yeah, good effort.
Yeah,
Really
it was
good
good.
effort.
I remember that first time past the camp, because I hadn't scoped that place out and it was pretty kind of rough.
Yeah.
I remember coming past you guys in like third gear, but on the limiter, but feeling so kind of exposed. Well, I was exposed.
Yeah,
So
very exposed.
So exposed and just going, oh, if this goes wrong,
Yeah,
this is going to be an
get
embarrassing
bad.
trip to a hospital. In terms of
Were you not wearing any rider kit?
yeah.
No, I had my boots on. Well, what else were you wearing? It kind of got ripped up.
Kind of fell apart. Anyway, Joe, it's been an absolute pleasure.
mate.
I've been looking forward to this
Yeah, me too.
since we've discussed it. I've been looking forward to seeing you again. Hopefully, we see each other on a regular basis on various trips. You are genuinely just epic and changed my life. So I'm not being dramatic there. So thank you very much. Superb.
Yes, well done.
Thanks.
Good.
Kevin. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Boner.
Yeah. Cheers, guys. And I must say, like, it's amazing that you've done this.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing the first podcast that you guys did and being like, shit, that is so
That was
cool.
about 2 weeks back.
Yeah.
About 2 weeks ago. That.
Yeah.
You know, it's cool for you guys to sit here and share stories and have people come in here, and I'm really looking forward to watching it, and you know, I wish you guys all the best with whatever comes of this, and the joy that you get out of it that no one else will see but you get to feel.
And that's why we do this, is to meet
Good.
people like you,
Yeah.
listen to their stories. That's the only reason we do it. And
It's just
Yeah.
so many positives from it, and
Yeah.
so just it's great to hear everyone's stories. So yes, please like and subscribe, share the videos, chuck a little comment down.
Yep.
And we're going for a pint now.
I'd like to
Yes.
thank our sponsors as well, Baffle Culture, because they sponsored us a little bit. Another shout out to Bonafide Moto Co, Rag and Bone Cafe,
Yeah.
where we're located. Drive Company as well, because we got a little drive, the Dragon Run going on. So lots of help out there. So
Yeah.
thanks.
Shout out to the Lost Visuals. He's a man behind the lens.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks
Yeah.
very much, Josh.
Thanks,
Thanks for coming
Josh.
down.
And
Pop out for a second.
got it.
Put a face to the name.
Yeah.
Thank you, Josh, mate. There he goes. There he goes. Yeah.
Nice one, Josh.
Josh, Lost Visuals. And also AGS
Yes.
as well,
For the
because
logo
Salts
design.
has done the logo design for us as well.
Banging job, Salts. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, everyone.
Good job.
Yep.
Cheers now. Thanks, Joe.